Oh, it has the same jokes. It even like has the Dracula thing in it too.
Yeah, I hate that. I also am bothered on a really deep level that he calls himself like Boris for one reason only.
Karloff.
That he was hoping that people would just be like, "Oh, this is obviously Boris Karloff singing this song." And tell them that Boris sent you. Did the mash?
Except they did the swim. We can't do the monkey or the dog because they've both been eaten by the blob. I'm like, oh my God. It's the same song and it's trash. If I had heard that in kindergarten, I probably would have never been a
Yeah.
fan.
Is he dead?
Yes.
Thank God. Hey everyone,
Hi,
and
everybody.
welcome to Why You Still Here, the show that we talk about whatever we want. And today, Lucas, why are we still here?
Well, move your head just a little bit. Beetlejuice.
No, you don't want to
Beetlejuice.
stay it. Mm-mm.
Ah.
hmm Yes. Yeah. I mean, and I know it's spelled a little weird, but that's
I
that's
mean,
what
that's how
this
it
told
is.
me.
It's how it is on his tombstone. We can't desecrate the dead now,
I
can we?
know. That's true. That's true. There's many theories as to why it's spelled that way on the tombstone, as well as in the script and
Hmm.
whatever. But spelling the same as the actual star in and of itself, Beetlejuice, the star. Anyway, so yeah, and what's this? You wonder? I
Oh,
tried
come
to get
on.
into the neither world. It's neither here nor there, right?
Hmm.
It's the neither world. I tried to get there and I just couldn't. Again, I followed all the directions from this book and how did I die? Well, I fell asleep standing at the counter in my bathroom and I tripped backwards and I hit my head on the wall and I died in the bathtub.
So I died recently also. I smacked my thumb in a ladder, and the ladder was so
Yeah.
dirty it caused an infection that spread through my
Yep.
body very rapidly.
Right to your heart.
Right
Yep.
there.
Yep. That's not as cool of a way to die, but
No, it's not.
yes, that's
It's
why
pretty embarrassing.
he has to serve eternity now with that little bandage on his thumb. That's the only
Exactly.
indication that that's what happened. And
Thumbs up.
you can't see it, but I have just my entire back of my head is bloody and dripping. So, you know, anyway, it didn't work, unfortunately. And I thought I followed it all correctly, except for one thing. I forgot the doorknob.
Silly Brandon.
That's the problem.
The fog just starts pouring from under the chalkboard. It starts glowing green.
Juno, are you my guide to the afterlife as well?
The
The old lady that smokes
smoke chain
and the
smoking
smoke comes
lady.
out of
Yep.
her neck because I guess she committed suicide by cutting her own neck or something. I don't know. Anyway, that's what happens when you throw the cap to something across the room.
Comedic effect has its price to pay.
It does. It does. Anyway, yes, Beetlejuice obviously was what we're talking about today. Here's my proof that I
Shit,
saw it.
mine's sitting in the car still. I never took it out. It's right in the cup holder.
Stupid bitch, stupid bitch. Look how stupidly expensive.
And mine
I
has my
hate
first
that.
and my last name on my ticket too because of the A list.
That's hilarious.
says ID required. They've never asked for my ID for the last 2 years I've been doing this.
No. And they never will unless it becomes like a huge problem or something for them. But
Mhm.
I don't foresee that happening. So this is my shrine to Tim Burton.
The man,
Some
the
of
myth,
these
the
things
legend.
will remain for future episodes. I think I do have to temporarily retire the janky Halloween 2 pumpkin, unfortunately, in lieu of at least the bat signal. And
For sure.
some of the other stuff probably isn't going to stay, but it's here for now. So you can look at all the little
Marvel
Easter
in all its
eggs of
glory.
everything that's there. So again, looks better in person, but whatever. Now that you've seen it, I have to do that, unfortunately,
Well,
because
at least this has been going for a solid hour, and
yeah, and it hasn't
it hasn't
faded.
died yet.
It is shocking. So yeah, the batteries and light bulbs and these things are very
Trash.
cheaply made. So yeah, trash is a good way to put it. So anyway, we saw Beetlejuice, and of course, this is
Yes.
a Tim Burton film. Eh? Eh?
The movie released on my birthday.
It did.
I saw it a day early with my old man, and
Yes.
there's a trailer for the animated Lord of the Rings spin-off story. My dad leans over and says,
The Gollum movie.
"No, it was like it's this whole like sub story, and it's like an anime. It's like literally an anime style." And my dad leans over and goes, "Who would pay money to watch that?"
And then you were like, I don't
I'm
know.
sweating.
Definitely not me.
And then I look over to my left and I see a man approaching. I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna have to recline the seats. This is a whole thing. And then all I see, Luke, I look, it's Brandon. He's right
Yeah.
there, seat right next to mine,
Yeah.
in between the other couple and the one seat. It was perfect. It was hilarious. I'm like, absolute no way.
Yeah.
Brandon, meet my father. Father, meet my Brandon. Here we go.
Yes. Yeah, it was really weird. It was I talked about it in my short actually. And like Lucas didn't tell me. Like we watched one of the trailers to this movie
Yeah.
and trailer 2, I think. And so like obviously we were both interested in seeing it, but he didn't tell me he was seeing it on Thursday. I didn't mention it. And we end up in the same showing, which is in and of itself is coincidental, but not crazy.
Yeah, it was
But
4:30. It was the first Dolby
ending up
showing of the night.
sitting right next to each other is the really crazy thing. When I
Yeah, that was
purchased my
wild.
ticket, I was the only one there, like
Yeah.
in that row, pretty much. And so that's funny. So you must have selected it willingly, knowing that you were sitting right next to somebody else. And you thought to yourself, I guess they didn't show up, which does happen.
Well, what
It
happened
does
was
happen.
I didn't see your thing wasn't blocked out when I got my ticket. I don't know when you got your tickets. I got mine a couple days beforehand because my dad expressed interest in
Mm,
it. And my dad and
yeah.
I have seen every well up until Sweeney Todd because then there's a couple after that. But from the 90s all the way up until 2007, I mean, we saw every single Tim Burton movie at that theater. So I'm like, my birthday, like let's make it full circle. Let's go see Beetlejuice. And my dad likes Beetlejuice. That Corpse Bride are his favorite Tim Burton movies. So
Hmm.
let's go. And then I got my ticket first. And then I asked him, I'm like, you said you want to go. You want to go? I'll buy you a ticket. Bought his ticket. So those were selected. There was the one empty that was yours. And then there was the couple that was next to you. And
Yeah.
those were selected. So I don't know if there was some discrepancy in the app, but
There must have been. I've had it for like 2 weeks.
really.
And when I purchased it, like it literally showed that I was like the first person on that row. There was a couple people on the ends,
Mhm.
and then that was it. Like I purposely chose it because it was as close to the middle as I could get, and there was not people near me. But yeah. So strange, strange. I think that you just were like, I'll sit next to somebody because that entire row was full the day of. So there wasn't an empty seat in that entire row. I know because I had to walk past all those people as they were sitting and I was pissing them all off.
Yeah,
So
and I was one of them. And
Exactly.
then I saw it was you, and then that alleviated a lot of my anger. Not all
But
of it,
not
but
not
a
all of
decent.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
No. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, it was weird. Very strangely coincidental thing to happen. Um, Especially because Lucas claims that he doesn't even like sitting on that row, but you know, whatever.
I like sitting toward the middle. I don't like sitting at the end of it.
Yeah, well then that's stupid. Remember how
If you're gonna
um
talk about the Wolverine thing, Deadpool Wolverine, where I was gonna sit in the back and not sit
yes.
by you, and then I switched
Yes.
my ticket, and then I got the wrong ticket, and then I had to cancel it, and I had to like wait a week for AMC to like reimburse my
Yeah, it's
reservation.
hilarious. And
It
that's
was a
not
whole
the
thing.
first time that's happened either. There was another incident. I can't remember what movie it was for, but you were not in the back that time. You were in the center of the theater. So you were like 2 rows back from that particular row, you know? So, and then you had to do the same thing where you canceled it and then you
Yes.
went and then got a seat next to me. And yeah, so you just sit all over the place. You're like the whore of AMC.
That is true. I am the whore. I
One of
am
these
there.
times I'm going to show up and you're going to be in the actual front row.
I used to
Uh,
do that. I had a period of time where I did do that. It was like right when they started introducing the reclining seats. I'm like, oh, no one's gonna sit up here. It's full screen, baby. And that only lasted like
yeah,
three
there's a
movies, and
reason for that.
I never did that again.
That was awful. I had to do that.
Child's Play 2019 was one of the movies that I sat in the first row for,
You
by
act
the
like this
way.
was a long time ago and then you tell me 2019.
It's 5 years ago.
That's not like it was a different lifetime. Like the image you were painting for me is that you were like a rebellious like teenager where you're like, screw this, I'm gonna sit in the
Oh
front
no,
rows
as a
because
rebellious teenager, I always sat in the very back. What kid doesn't
nobody
sit in the
sits in the
back?
front rows. So I'm gonna sit in the front rows. And then you're like, it was 2019. It's like, what the ass? Yeah, that's strange. I've never chosen to sit in the front row ever. For Spider-Man 3, we had to because we got there a little too late, aka 30 minutes before the movie started. That was too late in
Well,
2007.
that's back in the
Way
day,
too late. You for something like that, an event movie, you had to get there four
like
hours,
hours.
5 hours early. No kidding. Um, what a time to
Well,
be
yeah, because
alive. And they would
they would
oversell
oversell
seats
the
too.
ticket.
Yep.
Because my
So it
dad would
was,
buy the
yeah.
tickets for like Harry Potter specifically. He'd buy them like a week ahead of time, but you'd still have to get there super early to get a seat that's not in the fucking front.
Yeah. Now early just means when the movie starts. Then early, it was literally hours beforehand because again, for a big opening like that, it was a midnight showing. The very first time showing of the day was midnight, and there was no option for any time before that. And so that was like the world premiere in that moment. That was when everywhere else was premiering. And so they weren't using that particular auditorium for anything else. So they would open the doors for you that many hours in advance because it's like, well, we're not using it for anything else. So yeah, of course. Those were not good times. I have no nostalgia for those times at all. Just so everybody knows. Anyway, so we're talking about Beetlejuice,
It's not
and
obvious.
right. And obviously Tim Burton directed film, written by Alfred Goff, Miles Miller, and Seth Graham Smith, and stars, of course, the incomparable Michael Keaton, Winona Ryder, Catherine O'Hara, Jenna Ortega, and Justin Theroux. I'll also say Willem Dafoe and Monica Bellucci, right? No, Arthur Conti, you don't get your name said. Anyway, so let's look at the synopsis of this bad boy, shall we? After a dark family tragedy, 3 generations of the Dietz family return home to Winter River. Still haunted by Beetlejuice, Lydia's life is turned upside down when her teenage daughter, Astrid, accidentally opens the portal to the afterlife. Mm, okay.
Pretty good. It's
I
fine.
guess that's fine.
That's what you're
Yeah,
getting.
whatever. Sure, sure. Anyway, um, so if you're one of the five people out there that haven't seen the movie yet, we'll just briefly talk about some non-spoilery stuff, and then we'll get into the bulk of this, which obviously is going to be spoilerific. Phew. So yeah, so what are your non-spoiler thoughts, Luciana?
People are saying this movie's mediocre, apparently. Well, you're stupid,
Yeah.
first of all.
Mm-hmm.
This is a more than competent sequel. It is an entertaining movie. It's very good to see Tim Burton pretty much back in his element. I like to see his name out there again. Insane to believe that Michael Keaton is 73 years old while watching this movie. It's absolutely insane. And
Yeah.
obviously, he's going to steal the show. The movie's called Beetlejuice. You know, he's great in the trailers. It translates perfectly over to the movie. But everybody else that's either returning or Jenna Ortega in this, everyone is doing a great job. I can't say that the acting was bad. The storytelling was good. It's I would say it's more comedic than the first movie. The first movie, and again, I've said this before, maybe it's because I was so young when I watched it, it's made an impression, but it does seem more creepy to me than this movie did. This was a little more fun, a little more energetic, definitely funnier. But overall, what else do you need from a Beetlejuice sequel? I thought it was going to be either hot garbage or really good. It's really good.
It is really good. And it's a movie that is one of the very few that doesn't suffer from what's called sequelitis,
Hmm.
which is something that a lot of things fall into, like Rise of Skywalker, for instance, is something that suffers from sequelitis because you have movies and technically, The Force Awakens, people consider as well. I love The Force Awakens personally. I've never not loved it. I've loved it since day one. That feeling has never wavered. The Last Jedi is something in and of its own self, whatever that's got going
Yep.
on. So you either do something that's way too different, like The Last Jedi, or you do something that's so safe that's trying to make everyone happy. So ultimately, it makes nobody happy. And then you get a Rise of Skywalker, right? Um, this movie doesn't really compare to any of those three because it is like a Last Jedi in the fact that it forges its own path, but it's also really good at the same time.
Well,
So
it's having fun along the way while forging his path because it's not the same movie. It's not the same
not
story.
at all. It doesn't have the same tone as the first movie. It doesn't have the same messages as the first
Hmm.
movie. It's it's not really continuing any story that was set up in the first movie. Yeah, obviously there's similar characters. No, there's the same characters um that are just at a different point in life. So
That's what I was gonna say is that it's an evolved version of every single character.
yeah. Yeah. And you'd think, very logically that Jenna Ortega, roughly the same age that Winona Ryder was in the first movie, she plays her daughter. So of course she's just gonna be like a substitute for
Like passing
Winona
the torch
Ryder.
to, yeah.
Yeah, so it's gonna be like the same thing as the first movie, except instead of Winona Ryder, it's now Jenna Ortega. Not like that at all. The character of Astrid is nothing like Lydia, like at all, as far
Hmm.
as I'm concerned. And yeah, everybody was very, very good in it. And I don't know. There's in no way. I mean, there's a couple times where they have callbacks to the first movie, like the whole, snakes and stuff coming out of the face,
Hmm.
and I had just rewatched the first movie, and there is a point where Barbara says Beetlejuice, and he goes, I can't do the noise. He's like, can you hear that at all, or does this not pick
Yeah, I
it
can
up?
hear it.
Okay, so she's
Probably
like
not as high
Beetlejuice. He's
pitched as it should be, but I can hear
there you go. Can you
it. You're starting to trail away, so yeah, good
Okay,
enough.
great. Anyway, so she's like Beetlejuice, and he's like, and then puts a thing over her
Yep.
face, and he does that again in this movie. Because again, spoiler alert, if you say Beetlejuice 3 times, it brings him to you. But if you say it again 3 times, if you can muster that,
Hmm.
muster that action, getting those words out of your mouth hole, it reverses it and he goes back. So whatever. He does that same exact thing again, and then stuff coming out of his face, and then a couple other things here and there. But his position in the movie is completely different. It's much more friendly. It's much more because in a lot of ways he is like the
The
villain.
villain of the first movie.
Yeah, 100%. The villain's also circumstance, but also he is the antagonist of that movie.
Hmm.
Also, the Dietz family is kind of antagonistic too,
True.
but mostly he's the villain, and he's not really the villain of this movie at all. He's just well, in fact, he's not at all, period. There is another villain.
Well, I mean, it's right in the trailer. He
Um,
gets called on for help.
exactly. So he's much more the character that you see in like the cartoon. He's just like
Is that
very
another reason why you
friendly.
like this so much? Completely forgot to even mention the cartoons because you have a further Beetlejuice history than I do. Mine's Tim Burton Nut Hugger ends there. And you've always talked about a sequel, having elements of the 90s cartoon show. So I don't know if you want to elaborate on that or something you thought about while watching this movie.
It's been such a long time since I have watched the cartoon. I only remember very sporadic things about it. I did watch it as a kid. I watched Beetlejuice all the time as a kid. It was one of the movies that was in the rotation.
Hmm.
And around that same time, the cartoon was on. And even though I wasn't alive yet when the cartoon premiered, there was a point in my life that overlapped before it ended because it was on for 4 seasons. And yeah, I don't know. It's like a odd couple kind of setup, like buddy cop adventures in the Neither world, or
Hmm.
the Neither realm. It's something like that. And it's Lydia and Beetlejuice, and they're not antagonistic at all. They're like friends, and they adventure together in the afterlife. And that was a lot like what some of this movie was, which is very, very interesting. I think that this movie has basically made that cartoon completely non-canon,
Sure.
unfortunately, but because Lydia's like frightened of him when this movie begins, has like PTSD over him coming back. So, and he almost becomes like an it creature at first, like
Oh yeah, just kind of forming out
Pennywise.
of nowhere and just little
Yeah,
hints of
just little
him and
snippets of him and brief moments and stuff like that. And I don't think that's like a huge spoiler or anything, but that's how he is at first. And then it turns out like it's a much friendlier relationship that he has. And I agree with what you said as well. It's I don't know if it's necessarily like it more jokey than the first one is, but more of the jokes land, in my opinion. The
okay,
first
that's a good,
movie
interesting way to look at
is
it.
it's very funny, but it's not like a laugh out loud funny. There's a couple moments that are, don't get me wrong, but it's mostly dry humor that makes you giggle, you know? While this movie has some like laugh out
Laugh
loud
out loud
moments,
moments.
it's a completely different type of humor. And I think because of that, it does make it so it is a little bit funnier. Not that that means it's better. Spoiler alert, the first one's a better movie, but still, this one definitely holds its own, in my opinion. And when the movie was over, Lucas was like, I mean, you know, I liked it. And I was like, I loved
Yeah,
it.
I'm not at the love
I don't
territory,
know.
but I mean, I like it. It's a great movie.
It is. It is. And so I don't know if there's anything else that's like non-spoilery that I can say before we get into the other stuff.
No, because I was gonna say, and I leaned over to you and said something about the pacing in the first act of the movie. I had a
Yep.
little bit of issues with that, but the
Hmm.
second I was about to say something to you about how irritated I'm getting with this one specific character,
Something
the
happened that
the
completely
payoff
changed it.
instantly.
Yeah.
So and I still stand by the pacing of the first bit
Yeah.
a little bit, but Beyond that, not
Mm,
so much. I do feel, and that's I guess that's spoilers. I'm not going to mention the actor slash actress, whatever. But I feel like the ending should have had a little bit more of a payoff. But really, those are my only few complaints that are like holding it back from like, oh, I love this movie.
hmm.
But it's a I would have never thought a sequel to Beetlejuice would have been good. So color me stupid.
Yeah. It seems like there's more Beetlejuice in this movie as well. Supposedly it's like a one-to-one like recreation, and the fact that it's like he was in the original movie 20 minutes, he's in this movie 20 minutes. But I don't know if that's necessarily true. I heard that, and it might be in the fact that, because I wondered this when I heard that. Okay, when the snake is on screen in the original, is that
Do they
considered
consider that
Beetlejuice time?
Beetlejuice?
Right. You know, that's the kind of thing that makes me wonder. Like
Like the
he's reading
gray
the
area
paper, you
of
don't see his face, you can only see his hands. Is that considered Beetlejuice time? I
because it could be.
assume it must be the Zagnut bar. Like, hey, come here.
Yeah.
Help me! Help me! Is that Beetlejuice time?
It
It
is.
must be considered it. So this one doesn't have any moments like that. It's just full on. Like you see him, you spend time
Mhm.
with him, and he has a backstory as well, which might rub some people the wrong way. I don't
I
know.
like the backstory. I
I
thought it
haven't
was
heard a
really
single
good.
person say anything bad about it. So yeah, I thought it was fine.
Well, one
I
of
mean,
my
I
favorite
don't.
lines of the movie is during the backstory, the black and white retelling of of their
That's in like
relationship.
Aramaic or something, like a completely different language.
So stupid.
Yeah, it is stupid, but also just hilarious.
Mhm.
And the way they handled Jeffrey Jones is very
That
interesting
was
as well.
hilarious. I did not.
Yeah,
Okay, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I didn't expect
we
so much
will.
of. I didn't expect. Okay, fine. Yeah, whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, guys, my dad, the cynical old man who does not like anything new, liked the movie. And when I hear my dad like audibly, like if he goes, that's like a belly laugh for us. So, and I heard that a couple of times, and I was
That's
pretty happy.
good. I like that.
Yeah.
There's a twist, which we'll cover explicitly in just a second, that I am glad to say that I saw it coming. Um, I don't get to say that very often,
Hmm.
so I was proud of myself on that one. Um, it was funny though. It was like I have a feeling that this might be what's going on. And I would have gotten it immediately if it wasn't for one specific thing, which we'll talk about. It's a slight issue I have because I was suspicious of it right from the get-go.
Oh,
And
the
right from the one specific line at the beginning of the movie. And I was like, I think I know where this is headed. But then we'll talk about it. But it's a character. It's the biggest twist of the movie.
Mhm.
Um, and I like whispered over to you, I'm like, I think this is what's going on. And it turned out it was. Um, but yeah, so what's your score?
Gonna give it that 8 out of 10.
Hmm. So me too. And this is something I mentioned the other day at work that Lucas was a little bit more like not negative, but he was slightly more cynical about it because he mentioned like, oh, I don't like the beginning. It dragged. I don't like there's like a romance that blossoms in the movie. I don't like that. And the third thing you really didn't like was the character of Beetlejuice's wife. That's not a spoiler. We know that she's in the movie, played by Monica Bellucci.
Well, for me, it just boils down to I expected a lot more out of what I thought was going to be this overarching villain to the movie, and that's why I feel like it
Hmm.
just didn't have as much as a payoff. And for the two reviews that I did watch, that I haven't watched a lot, those that's like the only complaint that people had that I agree with. All the
Yeah.
other shit they talked about is just poppycock, as far as I'm concerned. But
Yeah, some people are really stupid.
yeah.
They might be watching the original movie wrong or something.
Well, my
I
my
don't
theory
know.
to Brandon was that they didn't even rewatch the original. They watched it 20 years ago on VHS, and that's what they
Yeah,
remembered. And they
just from the
watched a
pan.
retrospective of it, and like that's how they
Yeah,
rewatched the movie. And like
yeah,
I'm like
maybe.
saying this is a joke, but I really feel like a lot of people on YouTube do that because I've never questioned my film opinion so much than in the last year. So
That's been my goal since day one. Anyway, what's funny though is that Lucas was kind of like a little negative with the movie, and I was just full on like I loved it, and my score was 8 out of 10, but so was his. And it was like we have the same exact score, but the way we're talking about it is completely different,
Our emotions
you
run
know,
differently. That's how this is all channeled.
dramatically different. If I was gonna guess what your score was gonna be, judging by the things you were saying about it, 6 out of 10 probably is
Oh,
what I
really?
thought you
No,
were
I
gonna
wouldn't.
say.
Wasn't gonna give it a six.
Um, but yeah, it's a very good movie. Definitely go check it out. I mean, it's like Michael Keaton steals the show. Absolutely. He slips right back into the role. There is some people nitpick and they're like, the voice is a little bit different. He's
The fuck did you
older,
expect?
so it's going to be a little
The
deeper.
original's from
But
1988, my guy.
But besides that, I mean, it's not like he's fat old Beetlejuice walking around, the guy's still in shape very much so, and
Yep.
so it's like it was great. The way he looked was great, the way he acted was great. Loved it. He stole the show, but the other highlight for me was Justin Theroux. So, that's what I have to say about that. And yeah, and Winona Ryder was the weakest part of the movie, I will say. I love Winona Ryder, even though she stole stuff in the 2000s. Then we wondered what was wrong with her mentally. I still loved her. Um, but you remember that?
That's true love right there.
Exactly. I mean, I was like, what the shit's happening? But I've like still enjoyed her work over the years.
Hmm.
And she is a good actress for sure, but she's just not utilized super well in this movie, unfortunately. She's like a almost a background supporting character. That's really the
Do
big
you think if they
negative.
brought back Otho for this movie that she would be just a bit above him?
Maybe
I'm
the
not even joking.
actor has passed away,
Isn't it
unfortunately.
Glenn
As
Shattuck?
has James Earl
Glenn
Jones,
Shaddix?
by the way,
When did he pass away?
yesterday.
Oh, usually my
Yeah.
dad tells me when celebrities that we both enjoy have passed away. I'm surprised he didn't say anything. Maybe he doesn't know.
Yeah,
Wow, rest in
crazy.
peace.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, rest in peace to the legend, James Earl Jones. I wanted your autograph. You kept putting return to sender on my envelopes though. Anyway, but yeah, Glenn Shattuck, I think that's what you said, right?
Yeah, it's either Shattuck or
Um,
Shaddix, something like that.
yeah, something like that.
Played the fat
But
guy in
yeah,
every 90s movie ever. He's in Dunstan Checks
literally.
In. Hmm?
Mm-hmm. The mayor from Nightmare Before Christmas. Yeah, it's good. Um, but yeah, they had a substitute character for him though. And it's funny, it's like he's more alive and interesting than the character Winona Ryder as like Lydia Dietz. Like she should be very interesting, but I guess she's always been endearing. But even in the first movie, she's not the most interesting character. She's kind
No,
of boring.
she's a very monotone character.
Yeah. Yeah, and the charm of her comes in the fact that she is kind of weird and stuff. Like
I mean,
I
she
myself
herself is
am
strange and
strange and
unusual.
strange and interesting. I don't know why I said that. I myself am strange and unusual. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Good shit. So yeah, let's go into spoiler town, shall we?
Okay, spoiler city, baby. So let's start off with the beginning of this movie with our favorite Winona Ryder. She is a famous podcaster, just like us. Well, is she even a podcaster, or is it syndicated TV that she's
It
on?
is
Because
definitely a
that's
TV
that's what
show.
she's on. Yeah, because her boyfriend slash husband slash fiance is her manager. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's on
not
TV.
husband. Like he becomes her fiance like during
Yeah,
the
it's
events
a
of this
progression,
movie.
everybody.
Yes, yes. But yes, boyfriend and producer. And I loved him right from the moment that he like does that slide up to her on the stage. Like he like runs and slides like on his knees over to
Yes.
her. Like he's so animated. I was like,
He's a very
this is
theatrical
good.
character, and you want to
Yeah.
punch him in the face, but you also enjoy every second that he's on screen.
Yes. Yes. And he's very much like Otho. Um, just a,
A different
I'll say it,
version.
a better character than Otho is, in my opinion. Because he's just so stupid and funny and
Hmm.
like the moment it's like, I heard you scream, and he's just like holding these boxes like from town. Like he has like three of them in his hands.
Because he went into town to get boxes, and there was like three boxes, two
Yeah.
collapsible ones that were just sitting there, and that was to move everything out of the house.
Right, right. Like there is so many implications to why that moment was funny. Like first off, he hears the scream and so he immediately assumes it's Lydia. And then it's funny that he rushes back home. It's funny that he accomplished nothing while he was in town.
He's still
And
holding these boxes.
yes, and it's hilarious that like he takes those with him. Most people would drop them, and that of course that you think that in his mind that they could just pack everything up in like three collapsible boxes, but yeah, that was
Just
great.
like I did.
Exactly right. Um, so let's see here. Uh, let's just get into this one. So hopefully people aren't watching it anymore that haven't seen the movie. So the character Jeremy, um, as soon as Astrid, runs into the tree and he's like, "Oh, hey, a girl," and he comes down and you know, they have the conversation. I didn't think anything was up at that point. When she goes, "Sorry about your fence," and he's like, "Oh, my parents won't even notice." I was like, he's a fucking ghost. I knew it right from there. But the one thing that threw me off was that he was outside, and I know you end up on Saturn when you go outside and you're a ghost. So that's my one issue with this movie. That I don't care that it's still on your property. That didn't matter for, Barbara and
Adam and
Adam.
Barbara.
Yeah. They took one step off of their steps and they were in
Yeah, they're right there.
Saturn. Yeah, so there's no way in Dick that he could ever get all the way over to a treehouse. So that threw me off. If it wasn't for that,
Yeah, he can't go past the yard. There's a certain limit that he has,
yeah.
like geographically, that whatever.
Hmm. So that's the only thing that threw me off because it was like, other than that, it's like I assumed he was a ghost. And then I talked myself out of it. And then I'm like,
Well,
no, it's seeming like
until
he
you leaned
is.
over and said to me they didn't show the mother's face in the kitchen when she was stress cooking, and they didn't show the dad when he was sitting at the
Yeah.
couch. And you learned over and you're like,
So
yeah, they're dead.
yes. So that's how it was going to go with it first. So I was like, he's a ghost. He's dead. Wait a minute. That doesn't make sense, though. And then they go into the house, the next time she sees him. And then, of course, they obscure the mother's face, the father's face. And I went, oh, he's not dead. They're dead. That's what it is. And that's why he has the book. He's trying to help them get through. He claims he got it at a garage sale or whatever, but he's a liar. And
Well, he
then
lied about that. He lied about how he died. His parents drank. He stole a six pack, got drunk, broke his neck. Now, he did get drunk and break his neck, but this was after he killed his parents.
right, yeah.
With a
I don't
buzz
even think he
saw
got
to the
drunk.
dad's. I thought he was
He
drinking in
was
there.
like,
I think one of the people who was telling the story to
it
Lydia or
was just he was
somebody.
coming out of the treehouse when he was getting arrested and he slipped and broke his
Oh,
neck.
I still thought there was beer involved. So
I don't
when
think
we
there
get
was.
the steel book, we'll check it out. Which it's on pre-order on Amazon, by the way. It's probably sold out by now, but
Maybe. Yeah, I don't think that there was that was had anything to do with it anymore. But
anyway,
we'll
what
see.
did the mom get to the eye? Because the dad had the buzzsaw on the face. Did the mom have like a was it a
Some cooking
screwdriver,
utensil.
or was it the egg? Was it an egg beater in her face?
It was something
Something was
like
sticking
that.
out of her eye, or a
Yeah,
rolling
yeah,
pin?
yeah.
Was it a rolling pin? I don't know. Some kind of cooking thing.
It was
I think it
something
was.
comical, you know, which was interesting because it's like they're tackling the really dark subject matter of like matricide and patricide.
Uh-huh.
But then they make it so like he doesn't like, shoot them or anything. Like he uses household blunt instruments and yeah, whatever. But it
Very
was
Tim
like
Burton-y.
we're
It's cute.
coming up to the moments of it, and I turned to Lucas and I'm like, I think he might be dead too. And then all of a sudden
And
that
this
the
they say in the
reveal
next
happened in the
breath,
movie.
literally in the next
Yeah.
breath.
Yeah, it was
And this
weird.
was the point where I had like the monologue already like prepared in my head for the review where I was going to talk about how fucking
Hmm.
terrible this romance was if it didn't
Yeah.
take that turn. Because I was thinking in my head, there is no way that Tim Burton is so hung up on Helena Bonham Carter that he's writing a literal sixth grade romance right now, or Alfred Goff, whoever did this one. But this is
Yeah.
pissing me off. Like it was
He's
so formulaic and fake that I'm like, what am I looking at? And then the reveal made it all worthwhile, so it's
yeah.
fine. Which would have really ruined the first act of the movie for me. So that's
It would have,
a
yeah.
complaint that kind of went away.
Tim Burton has been dating Monica Bellucci for like years now, so let's throw that out there.
Oh, so she's the new
Um,
one. She's gonna be the
and
new
she's the new one
recurring.
for a while. Like they've been together 2 years, 3 years, something like that. But yeah, also Tim Burton doesn't write any of his own movies, so
Hmm.
but yeah, because you did mention that you were in the process of like saying like this whole teen romance is really slowing this movie down. Like the movie grinds to a halt, and it does, though that also ends up being the catalyst for the
But it
rest of
has
the
a massive
movie.
payoff, so it's okay.
Right, right. Yeah, so it does make it okay. I didn't mind it personally, but I do agree that it did sort of make the movie stumble around a little bit. What's funny is it's almost a ripoff of the first season of American Horror Story because there is spoiler alert for American Horror Story season 1, aka Murder House, which they called this house a murder house in the movie,
There's their
but
liberties.
there is a character named Violet that falls in love with this kid, Tate Langdon, that lives next door. Um, and he's like really into Kurt Cobain, and they kind of have like a thing like that here too, where Astrid's like, "Oh, you have a lot of '90s music in here," and he's like, "Oh yeah, I go to garage sales and shit." Um, and Yeah, so he's like really into Kurt Cobain. He dresses like Kurt Cobain. He kind of looks like Kurt Cobain. It turns out he is Kurt Cobain. No, I'm kidding. It seems like that's where it's headed though, wasn't it? Um,
Yeah.
but he's like, yeah, like,
Huh.
all into that like grunge style kind of thing. And he's never like he always sort of flakes on her like if she wants him to like meet up with her somewhere outside of the house or whatever. Turns out, spoiler alert, he's a ghost and he was a school shooter as
Holy
well.
shit.
Yes. And it
Spoiler alert.
is, yes. And he shot up the school and he went back home and they ended up arresting him or trying to arrest him and shooting him dead on the
Dude,
property
that's
of
some
the
heavy
murder
subject
house.
matter for the time that that came out. That's wild. That is good shit. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, it came out in 2011.
Yeah, when I would say, well, yeah, you know what? Actually, I didn't know it was that early. Maybe school shootings were later than that, like a more of a widespread thing. Because nowadays, it's every other week
Since
there's a school shooting.
Columbine, it's been really, like notable in people's minds, right? But yeah, there's a ton nowadays. But yeah, so he's a school shooter, so she wrestles with this whole thing like, holy shit, not only is this guy a ghost I've been speaking to, but he's like maybe evil too, like so there's definitely some mirroring here of this,
For sure.
some maybe parallel thinking, but also maybe just like slight rip-offery. And I won't spoil the whole thing, but there ends up being something with her as well, the character of Violet in American Horror Story, because she doesn't start seeing him until she tries to commit suicide herself. So
Oh, so she's dead.
I'm not saying anything.
She's dead
Yeah,
too.
she's dead. Anyway, um, so that's a whole thing. Like the oh my God. Anyway, so I just spit everywhere. But like in the world of American Horror Story, ghosts can only stay on the property. They can't go anywhere other than that property. They if they it's just sort of like their bodies are stuck wherever they died, and they can't like really ever leave that spot. Like that is basically
They're in Hotel
um
California. They can check out, but they can never leave.
exactly. That's basically, it's not hell, but it's like purgatory for them for the rest of their lives.
Hmm.
Is they're just stuck in that spot. I always joke to people at work that know American Horror Story that if I ever was like shot and bleeding out there at work, I would make sure I crawled out to the road just
That's
to get
funny.
off the property because there's
That's
no
good
way
shit.
in shit that I'm going to be stuck there for eternity. But anyway, so it just reminded me of that a little bit. But yeah. So Jenna Ortega was good. We obviously talked about how Lydia didn't have all that much character at all. You made a comment about her voice in the trailer that we watched that she sounds like, and it snows. It snowed
All
ever
this
since he
time
moved up the
before
hill.
him, it never snowed.
Before he came down here, it never snowed. And afterwards, it did.
So I was
Yeah,
expecting to hear that voice.
it was there. I was
Was
very aware of it because of you. And you and your bringing it to my attention because you mentioned it when we were watching the trailer and I went, yeah, that's just how she talks now. And you're like, oh, okay. And it's like, that's true though. Like she is a smoker, a heavy smoker. And so she's
Oh,
done
she's
damage to
currently
her
still a
vocal
heavy
cords.
smoker.
As far as I know, she's still a smoker. So she
So
has really like,
she spoke her old woman impression into reality. You know, it was a Tim
yeah,
Burton movie then, a Tim Burton movie now.
seriously. So every time she opened her mouth, it's like, damn it, I never noticed this before, but I noticed it now.
Astrid, I loved your father, but our relationship was over a long time before the accident.
It's like quivering old lady sound, you
It
know?
is 100% it is. So screw you. Anyway, uh, Delia, the great Catherine O'Hara.
She's
Holy shit.
hilarious in this movie.
She is absolutely hilarious in this movie. She's fantastic. I love Catherine O'Hara
I love that
very
she has a
much.
whole art museum now that's dedicated to to all of it. She had that like one assistant who was supposed to be doing whatever with her. I'm a little muddied at the beginning, but then they take it to the whole house where she shrouds it in a black veil of darkness to try
Yeah,
to get over Charles. Has
it's so good.
the whole display with the snake. I mean, every she's hilarious in this movie. It's good shit.
I love it. Yeah, we'll get to the snake thing or asps. They're asps. That's
Asps,
the hardest
defanged,
word to
no
pronounce.
poison.
Right. That's so funny you bring that up and you say it that way because that was something that was like a tiny issue I had with the movie because I felt that Jenna Ortega's character of Astrid was so smart and so well read. She was talking about like some book, Chaucer or Hawthorne or something, with
Oh, her Halloween costume
Jeremy.
that she was.
That too. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
where Nobel Prize post something. It was a whole
she
thing.
gave me this feeling, yeah, Marie Antoinette, the discoverer of radiation or whatever of she didn't create it obviously, but she was like she discovered it.
Hmm.
Um some whatever. Anyway, so that's how she ended up dying was radiation poisoning over years and years and years of being um exposed to it. But whatever. She seems so smart, so intelligent, well read, everything. I thought, no way in shit is this character going to refer to venom as poison. And that bothered me.
Oh, good thing I said it like that.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. And I struggled with whether or not that was something I should bring up, because I'm like, I know it sounds so nitpicky, but she was like me in the way that she seems so like, like particular about things
Sure.
she said and did and everything. And I thought, I call bullshit on this. She would have made a point of saying venom because that's what it is. Poison is
See,
something you
I feel like that's
ingest
only
and
because
die from.
of your particular sense of speaking. I think the movie was just stupid.
It's
That's what
possible.
I'm gonna lean toward.
Yeah, it's possible, but everybody gets that wrong though. So, and
I
it
mean, I just got it
bothers me.
wrong.
Poison's ingested, venom is injected. Get it? Ingested,
Ingest,
injected.
inject.
Yes.
Get it
So
right, dumbass.
you get venom injected into you, you get poison in your stomach, right?
Kind of like how Beetlejuice got poisoned. Eh? Eh?
Beetlejuice was
Eh?
poisoned. Exactly. Yeah. You
There
can
we go.
poison somebody with venom, I guess, if you wanted to, but it's that would be a poisoning. And when the asps bite Delia, she's, it's venom in her body
And this
at
beautiful
that
scene in the
point.
graveyard where she's trying to be all artsy and it just
Yeah, it's hilarious.
That's good.
It was good, but it's like barely a marking, but we'll get there because that was one of the funniest moments I enjoyed of the movie was towards the end. By the Soul Train. Anyway. So yeah, so whatever. Love Catherine O'Hara. Her character in this movie is a lot like Moira Rose from Schitt's Creek. And Schitt's Creek is like phenomenal, but she's in it and she plays the character of Moira, who, in all fairness, is a lot like Delia, and Delia came first. So, I don't know. And I think it's
Chicken or the egg?
natural to compare it because that's the role that she won awards for, Moira Rose, and it's such a good character. She played that character more than any other character in existence, as far as I know, because multiple seasons of a TV show. And she's kind of become like, her name has become synonymous with that character of Moira. But it's very, very similar. I'm not saying that as a negative, though. I'm saying that as a positive, really. Where the fuck was Johnny Depp? I was promised that he was going to be in this movie. I was promised he was going to be in it by, I think Tim Burton promised us he was going to be in it. And it was during the case of Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, is the whole thing is like, it was
He really
in the
promised
news
this.
at the time. Like he has his first job in Hollywood after his name being cleared, and it was in Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. I never heard anything about it again.
Did he
but
confuse?
I had faith.
Did he confuse Danny DeVito with Johnny Depp?
Yes, maybe. That was another thing too. Like, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I am a little bit.
Okay.
Like, all I see is fat and bald. And
you just immediately knew.
I think that's Danny DeVito, and he doesn't even talk for like the next 5 minutes. They don't even show his face yet. Like, just from the fat bald head.
Because that was like the first reveal of because didn't
like the Neither
Monica
world,
Bellucci
the
kill him like immediately after that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. There's something I want to find out too, like when his wife is like pulling herself together, is she able to pull her finger on? And the reason I ask this is because in the first movie, Beetlejuice tries to get married to Lydia, and he goes, "Oh, I swear to only do this once, but whatever." And so he insinuates he's been married before in the first movie, and he takes out a finger to take the ring off to give it to Lydia. And so he's been carrying that finger around for all these years, I assume, from his ex-wife, right? So I have to pay attention more to that when I see it again eventually, if her finger's on her hand. Yeah. Like
I seem to recall a finger inching toward the ring finger inching toward her hand at the very
I do as
end.
Well. Yes.
Like
I mean, we don't
after
know
or before her leg. Like it was one of the last things that got attached.
We don't know what happens to that finger once Beetlejuice takes the ring off, obviously. He could have dropped it to the
Puts it
floor.
up his ass.
Yeah, and the rules of the Neither Realm or whatever the hell it's called, maybe it went back there, like it got magnetized to the rest of her
Transported
body.
back into the box.
Right, but without the ring, right? It would have been funny though. It would have been a fun callback that she was tracking down Beetlejuice so she could get her finger back. That would have been kind of funny. Or, something like that. Like it turns out the finger's still at the house after all these years, kind of thing. Like it would have been interesting if they kind of put it into the plot like that, but whatever. We already talked about Justin Theroux is phenomenal. This I think is probably his best role ever, next to a movie that's really crazy, which I think is like the second Charlie's Angels movie, and he has like a fake Irish accent the whole time, and everybody thought he was just an Irish actor for years after that.
No
Like
shit.
that's how
Cool.
convincing he was. Yeah, crazy. I had no idea it was him until like just a couple years ago. And he's like more so than an actor, he's a producer, like a real producer in Hollywood. So that's primarily what his work is. So it turned out he was like a good actor on top of it, but
I guess you'll learn a few
So-
things while being in the biz, eh? Now it's our turn.
correct. Yeah, Michael Keaton is amazing.
Well,
That's
there's nothing
my
else to say
next
about
note
that.
on there. He is just great. I swear on my dead mother's soul. I'm gonna make you so happy.
One of my favorite lines, then we'll say, and I said it to Brandon like the day after at work, but it's when they do like the callback and they talk about, or Michael Keaton, Beetlejuice talks about how she went to poison him, right? And poison both of them. And then he just stops and looks over and goes, I'm into some real freaky shit, but even I gotta draw the line somewhere.
Yeah.
Like that is fucking great.
That was
that's
funny.
a Lucas joke. That's a good one.
Yeah, that was good.
It really stuck with
And
me.
like, have you seen this woman? Which Willem Dafoe.
He was
Great.
so fucking funny. What a
Yes.
great, unique character for a dead actor who
Yes.
takes his role too seriously, who has
Yes.
this picture perfect like look. And then he would practice the line multiple times, and then like the woman
Yeah.
corrected him and then gave him the coffee, and he's like, "That's why I keep you."
I
around."
love
Whatever.
his assistant with the coffee, like every single time, because he's an actor, like he's pampered, right? He's not like a real cop, and so
I know
yeah,
a couple
she's
people
constantly
said
bringing
that
him.
like that the Ghoul Squad felt like it fell flat a little bit, but I didn't feel that the Ghoul Squad was ever bad. I thought it was
No.
hilarious. Everything
I-
about that was good.
Yeah, I liked it too. Like it could have gotten a little bit more focus, but I think it was fine. People are just
As like a D plot, it
grasping at
was fine.
straws. Yeah. Somebody mentioned, and it might have been the nostalgia critic. I can't think of his real name, but
Oh God, Doug Walker.
Doug Walker, I think he said that this movie feels like it was two different ideas put together. Like, because this movie took forever to be made. They've been trying to get it made for years and years and years. And there's been rejected script upon rejected script. And the one that got closest to being made was like Beetlejuice in Hawaii or something. I know, God, Jesus, that would have been so bad.
Ugh.
But that was the one that got like the closest. So then they were like, okay, so I think it was him. I could be wrong, but theorize that there was one movie that took place almost entirely in the afterlife, and then there was another movie that took place almost entirely in the real world, and they took elements from both of those and put it together so it doesn't mash 100% correctly.
That's
There's
plausible.
there's like things that some like loose ends they leave here and there, and story points that get tied up a little too quickly, like Beetlejuice's wife getting
Yeah.
tied up too quickly, but and just the sheer amount of characters as well. Like Willem Dafoe is fantastic. It might be because he's not on screen a lot that the character works so well, but it also would have been nice to have more of him too, because
I was happy with the screen time. I thought it was adequate. It was enough to make that impact every time you saw him.
He's a character like the wife though that falls out of the movie. and you don't see them for 20, 30 minutes at a time.
Well, it's almost like you could remove his character and it wouldn't affect the plot.
It wouldn't.
However, but it adds so much flair to the movie. You could say the
Yeah.
exact same thing about Monica Bellucci's character, but it still adds that bit of
Yeah.
pizzazz to where I don't mind it, even if it falls
Sure.
flat.
It was, I guess they probably could never show it because it's not an R-rated movie, but like you find out the reason that his head's all screwed up and he died anyway. He's like, who knew it was a live grenade? It's like, why was there a live grenade on set? Oh my God. That's fantastic.
Well, he did have
what
a
was
whole
he doing with
diatribe
it?
at the beginning about how he had to fight for his own stunts for the genuinity of his act or whatever.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was like
I gotta.
Yeah, he has like his own movie posters like up on his wall in his office and shit. Yeah, that was hilarious. But he shows a picture of the wife, which I can't even remember her name for the life
Honestly,
of
I don't
me.
remember it either.
Yeah, and he's like like his eyes coming out and shit, his tongue is rolling out, like then I'll go, I've never seen that chick before in my life or afterlife. Yeah, that was just great. Just great. Also, Beetlejuice has like a whole team now, doesn't he?
Yeah, Bob the
His
assistant.
bioexorcism team. He has Bob. He has other ones.
I just love
Dolores,
how
by the way.
Okay, Dolores. How
Which
he's
Seinfeld reference of the day. Jerry has a girlfriend at one point who he forgets the name of. And all he remembers about her is that her name rhymes with a, a member of the female anatomy. And so he's like, Mulva? And he's like he keeps on trying to come up with different names, and finally he remembers it's Dolores, but she's already broken up with him by that point and already
That's
left his
funny.
apartment because obviously it rhymes with clitoris. So yeah. But what were you gonna say?
What was I saying before the clitoris part?
We were talking of yeah. We were
Oh,
talking
about
about Bob.
So right right when Beetlejuice goes on the run, he puts Bob in the suit for
Yes.
Beetlejuice. And then it
Yes.
has the tag. Does it still say Bob on the tag or
It
did it say
does.
Beetlejuice? Okay.
Yes, it says Bob.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah. Um and there were some other ones too. They all have like short names like that, which is hilarious. So I assume all of these people came in contact with the witch doctor from the first movie.
Yep.
Or a witch doctor or something. I don't know. They don't explain it, and that's fine. But I love when they break out because the door gets left open back to the real
The bomb
world.
goes off, so they all and
They're like looking at each other, and then all
I thought that was very funny to see them reacting in the real world. And I thought there was gonna be like a little more fish out of water with that, but I was happy with it. It was funny.
Yeah, there didn't need to be. It was just a joke where all you had to do was show them in the background from time to time, like on a bike or something. Like it didn't matter.
Yeah, but they're
and
cute
they did
little
do
worried.
that.
They're so ugly yet so cute and worried and
Yeah,
wholesome at the same time.
They're adorable. There was that I thought we were gonna hear the one Bob talk at one point when Dolores comes and like starts sucking the soul out of him, and it pulls the stitches out of his mouth, and I was like, what is he gonna sound like? And then they didn't follow up on that. Bern Gorman's in this movie. And you're going to think, who the dick is Bern Gorman? Okay, well, I'll tell you. He was Father Damien in this movie. And it was a nothing character, in all honesty. But he is this actor that shows up in like Christopher Nolan projects all the time. And he was in The Dark Knight Rises. He's the guy, if I remember correctly, that Bane, like, I can't remember. Whatever. Bane kills him in the movie, The Dark Knight Rises. That's all you need to know, really. So every time I see him and his slightly weird, misshapen face, I always think about Tom Hardy too.
Very good.
So the story with Jeremy gets tied up super quickly, as quickly as it starts,
Oh,
you
Beetlejuice
know.
stamps the ticket immediately.
Yeah, well, not only that, like he gets her to recite the words from
Hmm.
the book. Huh? He gets her to recite the words and then tells her afterwards that, that was like a soul switching spell, which that's fine. But then they're in the afterlife, and yeah, they go to that first person who is like some Russian lady, and she's like, "Oh, you have to go over there and get it validated or whatever." And then yeah, then Beetlejuice does it. And what does he say? Does he go, "You're fucked"? Is that what it was? I think that's what it was. And then literally hell opens up and swallows him down into it. Like it was such a weird, quick, like I don't know, like part of the story that
Well, I
was one
guess
of
we
those
can't complain about
moments.
a loose end being tied up because it just took care of itself immediately. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things where it's like that really didn't have to be there either. So all this stuff just exists to get, Astrid into, the afterlife,
Hmm.
the neither realm. So it's like whatever. I don't know. I don't have a huge issue with it, but it is just one of those things, that might be like a carryover from another script where it was looked into much more, let's say. I did not have this in my notes, but I loved the Halloween aesthetic of this movie. I was not expecting
Yeah.
that. That was so good. They could have leaned into it a little bit more, but I still loved it. I love it. Like when you see, and
Just
traditionally you see it
piles of
in,
leaves.
yes, but also the trick-or-treaters and stuff, like those shots of the streets at night with the trick-or-treaters running around and the lights on everybody's houses and
Oh, this is
stuff.
something you say for every Halloween movie that we watch, or lack thereof inside of it.
Atmosphere,
Mhm.
like the atmosphere of it. Yeah, love the atmosphere. Um, and we see it in a Halloween Michael Myers movie, but you don't get to see it that often besides that. So this was a nice, fun surprise. And it was like, hot damn, this will go into the rotation of Halloween movies that I watch for sure. So I like that. Let's finally talk about Charles Dietz, shall
Okay.
we?
So obviously, Jeffrey Jones is a child. Apparently, he's going to prison for life. Isn't that what you said?
He's in prison, yeah. Um, just fair notice, you're gonna have to bleep what you just said,
Okay.
unfortunately, because it will get us massively shadow banned, unfortunately, which is
More
so
so than we already
terrible.
are.
Like,
You're
just
bringing
so
light
everybody
to a shit
knows,
situation.
I don't
What? Yeah.
enjoy having to bleep things that come out of our mouths, and I'm sure Lucas doesn't either, but it's
Raw and uncensored.
eh, it's it, I don't know. I guess that's the nature of the game when you're on a website that every country in the world can access, right?
Even China.
China, okay. All right, all right, China. All right, it's a very great country, very good, very good. But in many ways, actually, China is not very good. Anyway, um, it was the debate earlier tonight. I did not watch it, but I'm
Neither did
so
I.
excited
But
for the
let's wait till
highlights.
tomorrow. Yeah.
So excited. Um, anyway, so yeah, he is in prison for life. And so I don't know how that goes with them obtaining his likeness and stuff because I thought it was going to be like any other movie where a character dies in.
He gets a mention
And
and that's it. But
that's
nope,
it.
we get a
Yeah.
mention, right? He's in like the Galapagos Islands or whatever doing his exotic bird
Bird
watching,
watching.
right?
Yeah.
The plane goes down. He's in a plane
Yeah.
and you see this stop motion sequence of all of the characters on the plane. You get this
Yeah.
really goofy looking
And they
Charlie
show
Dietz
him and it looks exactly like
like
Jeffrey
Jeffrey Jones,
Jones,
right? And then he
which was crazy.
gets bitten by the shark, so his character is walking
Yeah.
around without a head. So I guess that
Yeah.
and the trachea is shooting blood constantly. It's really funny, and he's gargling
Is
as
it
he's
blood or is it
talking.
water? I think it might be water.
I'm pretty sure it was. Oh well, it's PG-13. Maybe it is water.
I
I don't
think it's
know,
water. Yeah.
but so you think they can mitigate it like that, right? No, they show his face on the tombstone that has a shark fin.
Yes, the shark fin. That was so funny. I didn't even notice it until it's like the second or third time they showed it. Somehow I was hyper focused on his face
His
being
face
on
that was
it,
on there.
which was crazy. But it was like, yeah, he was headed to the Galapagos Islands, and it's like he died in the plane crash. No,
No.
he was there and the plane went down. He drowned. No, he was on a life preserver. It's like, well, what happened then? It's like a shark came up and attacked him and bit him in half.
And then they show one of the other, like a surfer that got bit from the same shark that's walking around the Netherworld.
Yeah.
And then they
It's
also
good.
show the football players from the first movie at some point.
Did they? I did not
going
notice
through.
that. I like that they keep up like to a T the fact that you can tell without them saying it what every single person died from, you know? Like there was in the
The Santa
first
Claus
movie,
that was burned.
the
from
Santa,
being in the
obviously he went down,
chimney.
he was a dad that went down the chimney and the fire was on, which that's something that does happen sometimes,
My dad laughed
unfortunately.
really hard at that one.
Yeah, that was good. There's obviously the smoker from the first movie. Like, I'm trying to cut back. I thought as a
Mhm.
kid that was just like it just smoked itself into oblivion, but apparently it died in a house fire from falling asleep while smoking.
Smoking a cigarette. Yeah.
Yeah. Which we have now things in cigarettes that can happen, and it's more cancer causing properties
Yeah.
that they add in for that to put the cigarette out. But anyway, there's the magician's assistant in the first movie. She's cut in half.
Hmm.
But in this movie, it's super quick. You'll actually see a magician, like a David Blaine magician that's like shoved, or a Houdini that's like shoved into a box that was
I
obviously put
remember that.
underwater, but he drowned underwater in the box. Like he didn't escape from it. So it was funny. So just tons of stuff like that. Gotta love it. Um, and they didn't do anything like stupid though either, like showing, the specific characters that were from The Office from the first movie that are now played by different people. Like if you can get
For
the same
sure.
person to play them, that's great. But sometimes it's just pushes it a little bit when
I
you
agree.
are keep hammering home that first movie, but they don't do it. Which is just
It's good
amazing, I
shit.
guess. Maybe there's more than one waiting room in the afterlife. There has to be, right? Because they never get through. They're
Hmm.
just waiting and waiting and waiting. Uh, but yeah, we see Jeffrey Jones a lot though, and it's like he. We don't see his face anymore, but he keeps showing up in the damn movie and just shuffling around. And then
And then
he
him and Delia
talks.
finally meet at the very end.
Yeah, yeah, by the
Because
Soul Train.
she wants to get like a manager to get through to the desk. Well, I know my Charlie would never let this happen. He just like wanders in out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, she's at the desk and then she goes, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. And then she's in the process of saying it a third time, but he's like behind her and he's
Okay.
like, You're cold. And he takes her to the Soul Train, or she ends up there somehow to the Soul Train. And that's when
Is that
she's
where she saw
standing
him for the first
there.
time?
Yeah,
Okay.
she sees and she's like, Oh, Charles. And he like wanders on over to her.
Saunters on over.
And she's like, Oh, Charles, look at me. And just points to these two little, incisions on her neck. That was one of my favorite moments from the entire movie. That was so good. Um, but yeah, I don't know how the weird stuff goes with the rights to Jeffrey Jones and all that, but they definitely leaned into it heavily. Um, but you have to separate the art from the artist in this case. I would not have been okay if they somehow got him in this movie. Like, let's say they
For
deep
sure.
faked him or something. Like, they went that far with it. Would not be okay with that because the guy can rot in hell for the rest of his life. Or if he got like a 1 day prison pass and he came and shot his scenes for the movie with his 1 day prison pass or whatever, would not have been okay with that either. Um, but the character you know, is, as far as we know, is a good person. Like Charles Dietz is, decent individual, decent father, whatever. So we have to look at it like that. Like this is a continuation of that character from the first movie. And some people aren't able to do that, but whatever. Um, and the last thing I have in my notes is just I didn't dislike this as much as some people, but Astrid's father, some people just hate that. They're like,
Uh-huh.
Couldn't there have been more to that? Like, come on, he's just happens to be there. He's a civil servant, which is interesting because aren't civil servants only civil servants after they committed suicide?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the rule set up by the first movie, that if you commit suicide, you end up being a civil servant. So, I mean, he obviously died from like a piranha attack, so he still has all those piranha all
Hmm.
over him, which is fun. But
They make noise, they
yeah,
move. Kids will point and laugh at it.
I kids and me will point and laugh at it. It was definitely funny because they make a whole lot of noise. In some
They do
cases,
the entire time. It's like,
they're making more noise than the actual actors speaking in some cases. So that was good. I like that. Um, Piranha won't actually do that to you, but that's a story for a different day. Um, but yeah, so anything that you can think of as the last
actually, yes,
moment
I
topper?
will. I will mention this last because you didn't mention it.
Sure.
Um, I was. I mean, I don't know if you noticed this, but when first of all, it's a full opening credit sequence, like you pointed out for another movie recently that had full opening credits. So was very happy to see that. But it was just picking up what it seemed like where the first movie left off. It wasn't the exact same like overture theme, but it was close enough.
Yeah.
And I was just tapping my foot, listening. It just took me right back. And to hear good Danny Elfman music and not think about his Oingo Boingo midlife crisis, whatever the fuck he's going through right now, I was really happy to see an Elfman Tim Burton collaboration again. And the score was great. And then even the little the soundtrack, there are a couple songs. I kind of like the song as much as the ending kind of bothered me. I did like the song about the cake. And they had the whole cake, like whole thing. It was funny.
Like the
Um,
song that they keep singing.
yes, about the cake not being perfect or whatever it is, all the ingredients, the whole thing.
I have no idea.
But Danny Elfman, it was very good to hear you back doing something normal again. So I just want to point that out. Music by Danny Elfman. Because I asked
And
Brandon, I asked, was
yeah,
his name in the beginning of the credits? Because I missed it.
it was. Immediately, I got an image of a old shirtless man dancing around with his long hair flailing and his tattoos
Oh, there
glistening.
there will be a video representation of that right now.
Yes, as well as just for the sake of it, throw in that the one that made me forever look at Danny Elfman differently. You know what I'm talking about?
Not the song Little Girls by Oingo Boingo.
That's exactly what I'm thinking of.
I love little girls, they make me feel so good.
I like little girls, they make me
Me feel so good. I like little girls, they make me feel so bad. It's like
Oh, it's
weird
okay.
pauses and shit there. I don't know if that's exactly right, but he does those pauses. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Really weird. I can't make up in my mind, is it weirder that vision of Danny Elfman or the vision now of Danny Elfman?
I'm gonna be
That's
honest.
obviously going through a crisis.
2024 Danny Elfman. For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Especially when you showed me a picture of his current wife. The two extremes of the spectrum that you have here.
Oh yeah, who is his wife? It was somebody
It was just like some average looking, chunky, middle-aged, Midwestern looking woman.
yeah,
And then here's theatrical Danny Elfman.
that's funny. Yeah, it's not good. I love Danny Elfman, but
I do too, and I always will separate the art from the artist. Isn't that what we talked about?
I miss Correct. How dare you throw my own words back at me? Yeah, Bridget Fonda is his wife. That's why we talked about it, because she used to be like a absolute knockout.
Mhm.
And that makes me have so much respect for Danny Elfman, because he's stayed with her, even though now she's like, I don't want to be mean because she's obviously going through something, but this
Yeah.
and like he's stayed with her. He still loves her. They married in 2003, and I mean, he has to be like, he's weird as shit, but he's obviously like a really good guy. So I have to at least give him that.
For sure. The compliment sandwich.
Yes, yes. I mean,
Yes.
maybe go back to the short hair and like the pinstripe suit
I was okay
and
with
the
that.
colored glasses.
Yes, his tinted glasses.
Yeah.
I think of his performance with Catherine O'Hara and with Paul Rubens, where they
Yeah.
did Kidnap the Sandy Claus live.
Yeah, they did the entire album
Mhm.
live. Yeah. That was great. But oh well. We'll see what the future holds, I guess.
Definitely.
And yes, I wish this could have stayed on the whole time, but there's no way an ass.
We're not doing
But
that.
this was a fine, fine Tim Burton film, which is honestly words I never thought I would speak again.
And on my
Because
birthday too. That's awesome.
I know. Tell me about it. Because he hasn't, like, his last movie that's like universally loved. What would that even be? Like
Well,
Sleepy Hollow from '99?
I guess universally loved. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't think anybody trashed Corpse Bride, but it wasn't like
There's a
popular,
ton of people that do.
Really?
Because it's yeah, it's not well liked. Like, it has its
I just
fans,
recently
but
watched it again and I loved it still. Okay, I guess
that's
it has
good.
you're right here. You're looking at them.
Yeah. Like, it's not even a feature film length, and it went to theaters for some reason. I think because they threw short films in front of it to make it longer.
Let's go look at the runtime on the back of the
It's like
box.
47 minutes or
Oh, it's
something.
not 47 minutes, you fucking liar.
That's what it is. Something like that.
No, it is not. It is 77 minutes. It's the same length as Nightmare Before Christmas.
Hmm.
What?
So that's nothing though. That's still an hour.
In 16 minutes.
I mean,
Is
an
it?
hour and 17 minutes, but yeah.
17, sure. Are you complaining because there's only four like full songs that they sing in the movie? Is that a complaint? Because there's only four songs.
It's not me. It's been years since I've seen it, so I'm not the one complaining. I'm just saying what I've
Okay.
heard from other people. An hour and 17 minutes is not feature length. So they had to do something to get that in theaters. And I believe it was they threw like the original like Frankenweenie short in front of it, and like Vincent in front of it. Like, they had to do that to make it worthwhile for it to be in theaters, but whatever. Some people say it's boring and whatnot. It's a whole thing. So I don't know. Universally loved though, I would say. And of course, there's always going to be some people that dislike Tim Burton. Those people I'm not talking about.
Sure.
But in general, people like, I love this movie. I think Sleepy Hollow would be the one. And I'll text you with another movie if I find something else. But anything else, I think, has been like dragged through the mud. It's either loved or it's hated. That's what the rest of his career is. And as time has gone on, it's become much more on the hated side of things for people. So,
I must just be a Tim Burton nut hugger.
I suppose. I mean, the last movie I liked from him was Dark Shadows. So that's saying something. But I haven't seen a ton of his stuff though either. I fell off the Tim Burton bandwagon.
The Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, that movie was good.
Okay.
I remember watching it with my cousin.
Funny,
we liked it.
I had no idea that was even him. And not only did I not know that wasn't him, I didn't even notice it in the list I sent you. Like, my brain was just like,
it almost feels it almost feels like he had a part in all these movies post Sweeney Todd, right? But just had his credits just removed from the film is what it seems like. Because it's like this Mandela situation where it's like we think he didn't exist for 17 years, but really there's all this shit. And I'm like, wait, what?
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
funky.
Yeah, he's done a ton of stuff. Even stuff that he's produced and hasn't directed, like still that's happened a few times as well.
I think that started with
Um,
what, Through the Looking Glass, probably.
no, before that, but of more recent movies, probably, I guess. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Maybe.
Because I think of that,
Wednesday
think of
is almost
Nine.
I think he almost only produces that show. He
Oh,
directed like
really?
2 episodes or something. Yeah.
Oh, what a cop out.
Yeah.
Netflix
Yeah.
and their advertising.
Yeah. But again, they call it Wednesday. They don't call it Tim Burton's Wednesday. They don't like really lean into that,
Well,
which
maybe
that used
because
to
of the
be
reception of the
something.
last 7 movies, a Tim Burton film is not a selling point as it were 20 years
It's
ago.
not what it used to be. Just like M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh,
Not what it used
oh,
to be,
oh, you
baby.
want a perfect, so somebody who has no attachment to M. Night Shyamalan, other than liking Signs a lot when I was a kid, haven't watched it in like 10 years. I probably hate it if I watch it again.
I'm disgusted by the fact that you chose Signs for that sentence instead of The Sixth Sense. An
I'm disgusted too.
iconic phenomenon of a movie that was like Titanic level of iconic.
Well, that was a Titanic level of a statement.
You
How
you
about that?
choose swing away, Meryl. Like which Signs is okay. I've seen it within the last few years. It's okay. It's not great though. Um but yeah, so it's sort of similar. These directors that used to be really hot in the 90s and then have kind of fizzled out a little bit.
It's like
But
our age is showing.
yes. Yes. And then you're the first person to say like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Most people despise that
Oh,
movie.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Almost everybody, you and me and Josh are like the only people I know that like actually like that movie.
Yeah.
So,
I believe that. And I mean, Alice in Wonderland came out and I was like all into that. Like without seeing the movie, I was like 100% all on board with Alice in Wonderland, okay? Because I'm a fan of the two
the source
stories,
material.
and I'm a fan of this is terrible that I can't think of his name, and supposedly I'm a fan of him. Lewis Carroll. I was trying to think of his real name, Dodson. Charles Dodson, I think, is his real name. I did a report on him in back in high school. I'm not condoning the things he did with children, just so people know. But I was a fan, of his work and stuff, and I felt like this was going to be like the true vision that we've always deserved of Alice in Wonderland. I loved the actors that were in it. I got a stupid Mad Hatter poster and had it up on my damn wall. It was framed under glass and everything.
Sounds just like me with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, down to
Very similar.
my framed Willy Wonka poster that the Hot
Yeah.
Topic employee graciously gave me when they were getting rid of the promo stuff. It was framed and on my wall.
Yeah.
And I
Very
was so
similar.
excited. I read the 2 books. I was just, this was the version. And it is to its own degree, but I wanted to join in with my own example.
I went
And it's Tim
all
Burton, so it's
in
perfect.
with it. And then I saw the movie with Anthony. We went to the midnight showing.
Nice. I saw Alice in
2010.
Wonderland with Josh.
Perfect. And I was crushed because I did not like anything about it except for
Alan Rickman.
love Alan Rickman as the caterpillar. That is like the best part.
It was good shit.
And I liked, the Cheshire Cat. Those were
It
the
was
two things
done
that I
tastefully,
liked.
yes.
Yeah, like him, like I loved the flips that he'd do in the air. Like he's this big fat cat that's like constantly moving and doing flips and stuff. Like I like that.
It's right up your alley. It's perfect.
It is. And it was like Johnny Depp went way overboard into Johnny Depp land. And, it was too much. Way too much. The girl that played Alice was good, but Mia Wasikowski or something like that. Wasikowska. I don't know.
Sure.
Anyway. So this is good though. Basically, that was just a really long, drawn out, completely unacceptable way of saying that this is like classic Tim Burton territory, I think. I mean,
it's the closest we've gotten in what? Almost 20 years.
Yeah.
That's a long fucking time.
Yeah.
Like Tim Burton's been out of the zeitgeist longer than he was popular in it. Like that's nuts.
Yeah, I guess he kind of has been. So this is pretty crazy. He hasn't done a feature film since 2019 either, which was Dumbo. And he was so soured on the experience from Disney, he vowed to never work with them again.
Wow.
So yeah. I'm happy that he was finally able to put those feelings aside to come back and work for perhaps a worse company in Warner Brothers.
Oh my God, it's so funny you say that. I forgot it was a Warner Brothers movie, but I said this to you right when they show the water tower at the beginning. I'm like, so we're gonna see something good for Warner Brothers for the first time ever?
Yeah, you said
recently, whatever. It was what exactly did I say to you?
You said it's so weird to see the Warner Brothers logo attached to something good for once.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's a Lucas statement.
And immediately I think like, well, Zack Snyder's Justice League or whatever. But yeah, I got your point though. Well taken, because screw you, Warner Brothers. But yeah, so I think it was a good movie. I think it was great. In fact, I think it's a great movie. Solid 8 out of 10. I look forward to seeing it again. I actually contemplated going back to the theater already to see it again. So
very good.
That shows my my admiration for this film. Yeah, because even Deadpool and Wolverine, that I love, I only saw it in theaters once. So
what does that tell you?
What can I say? Just like Lucas, I am strange and complicated, and perhaps strange
and unusual.
There we go. Yes.
Indeed.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. What did you think of Beetlejuice?
Yeah,
Beetlejuice?
all you armchair internet critics, I don't know what that's like.
No.
Armchair internet yeah, whatever. You get the idea.
Yeah, I don't know. People will say like armchair quarterback are the people that are like
driver.
Sure.
What did you think, backseat drivers? Let us know in the comment section down below.
Let us know what you thought about it. Did you agree with their points? Did you disagree with their points? Do you think it's like the worst movie that came out this year? Do you think it's the worst Tim Burton movie ever? Or are you on the same page as us and you're like, no, that was pretty damn good? And I think as a follow-up to Beetlejuice, it was as good as it possibly could have been. So
indeed.
Who knows?
Wait for Beetlejuice Cubed.
Yes. Which Michael Keaton's like, hey, I'll do it.
That's
and Tim
hilarious.
Burton's like, I'm not. Tim Burton's like, I'm officially retiring from this character. So I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see what happens.
I can handle that.
Yeah. We'll see. Get Terry Gilliam or something.
Oh God.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.